What is the main lesson that you learned with your previous businesses?
You're always growing. You cannot be stagnant. Every day, there has to be something new that you're working towards.
What was the next big challenge that you faced?
Scaling, going from owner-operator, 1, 2 employees, technicians, or whatever, to like, once you get to like 3, it becomes a real business. You're not going to learn if you don't try, you don't fail, right? Like, I think there is no perfect time. If you want to do it, just do it.
Welcome back to the Canadian Dream Podcast. Today, I'm sitting at our studio in Vancouver with Mark Amery. He is an entrepreneur and the founder of Puddle Pool Services.
Yep.
Puddle Pool Services.
Oh, yeah, Puddle Pool Services. Yeah.
Welcome on our podcast.
Thanks for having me.
We got connected a few weeks ago on LinkedIn.
Yes. Yep.
I always tell our audience, LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Yes.
You got to be on there.
That's how we got connected. And it was just a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And now you're here to share your journey with us.
Yes.
Where do we start?
You tell me, where do you want to start?
Well, let's skip the part that you have 5 kids.
I do. Yes, I do. I have, so I have 5 kids. That usually veers the conversation into another podcast. Yeah.
Let's skip that part.
No, we could. Yeah. My kids they're older. They're 22, 21, 19, 17, 16, all girls. Yeah, so that's kept me busy and my wife busy for a long time.
I am sure.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So
you own a few businesses. And
yes.
You recently sold part of your business too?
I did, yeah. So we have, so I'm in the franchise space, in the home service space. So most of the franchises, or all the franchises that we've started and grown through from zero to hero have been in the home maintenance, pest control, landscaping, and pool. So stuff to do with home-based services. Yep.
So let's first give us an overview first of what you are controlling right now, what your business is like now, and then we go back.
Okay, yeah, good question. Yeah, so as of now, so I exited the other 3. We exited those like between 1 and 3 years ago because the big picture is moving into the U.S. and for our locations there. And the model that Puddle Pools has, it's they call it like an executive model, so it really meshes well with the U.S. Not so much owner-operator model, that and the size of the U.S. I think it's every entrepreneur's end game maybe, or dream, or in the franchise space anyways, to move from Canada to the U.S. because the size, they're 10 times larger, they have 10 times the volume, 10 times the availability. So it's just that model, we want to put full time into that. So,
and it's also easier to do business in the States. At a certain extent.
Yeah. So it is very difficult not difficult, maybe challenging to go from, as a Canadian company, to go into the US because it's foreign, right? And so you have to redo everything.
Isn't it easier to grow in the States?
It is easier to grow. Yeah. It's just different. Yeah. It is easier not easier, but there's a lot more space available to, they're 10 times the size of Canada. So for us, or any business looking to grow, you got to max out in Canada, but then that allows you so much more space in the U.S. So,
and what does your company do?
We are a residential and commercial pool, spa, and water feature maintenance company. So they would take care of, if any of the folks at home have a pool, they know it has to be once a week. It has to be taken care of. In a commercial setting like hotels, motels, it has to be daily. So it's this making sure somebody's there, cleaning the pool, fixing this, doing that, changing out. We actually install pools, so a little bit of everything. Everything to do with that space, with pools and spas.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So now let's go back in time.
Okay. Here we go.
How did you start this business? I also want to know how you grew up. When you discovered your passion for entrepreneurship.
Yeah, that's a good question. And that's
we start with your child.
Sure. Yeah, let's start there. Young Marky. So yeah, young Marky Mark. Yeah. So
born here in Vancouver.
I was born in Toronto, and then we moved out here when I was young. I'm 10 or 11 or something, like 47 now, so that's a long time ago.
And what did your parents do?
So my dad was entrepreneurial as well. He always had a business. He owned paint stores. He owned dollar shops. He owned that kind. So he was actually, now that I look at it, he was always in the franchise space. Yeah. So I learned a lot from my dad, just being there and and working with him at a young, like I went to work when I was 13. When I was young, I worked at a Tim Hortons, right? Can't get any more Canadian than that. So I was 13, I was working there, and I was actually doing night shift on the weekends because they knew who the owner was. So my mother, she was from Ireland, and she was out of the house. There you go. she was out of the house. So they were both out of the house early. I think that, and he's that, from, I think maybe that European, they came here when they were young. They left school when they were, I don't know, 14, 15, 16, and then they came here to start their dreams. So really hardworking people. My mom kind of was always home, and she had odd jobs here and there, worked at restaurants at Kmart. That's another Canadian golden one. That's another oldie. So those kind of things. And I think I just, being at work at a young age for myself, like 13, I had kids in school, and I'm working and doing night shift on the weekends. And then 14, 15, I actually moved out of the house when I was 15 and a half. Where
did you go?
Yeah, I moved to an apartment with a friend, and
That's 15.
15. Yeah, still went to high school, and we I didn't even have a driver's license, right? But for my folks, that was just normal. You're
Emancipating.
Yeah, you're go like, what are you doing here still? Get out to work. So I went to work at a young age and understood the whole.
So you started working when you were 13.
Yeah, when I was 13. Yeah, and then like on my own when I was.
Is it
15.
allowed nowadays?
I don't think so. I don't know.
No?
I wouldn't. Like, I have a 14. This should be a lesson for me. They should be, but they have full. But when they're 13, they should be maybe not at a full-time
My
job.
son is now 5, and he told me a few months ago he wants, when he grows up, he wants to be a part of ICE Multimedia's team.
Oh, nice. There you go.
So I guess if he's not allowed to, just have him work for free.
You don't pay him. That's it. Yeah, he'll be fine. Doing odd jobs, but I think that's really important. Like now that I look at it, yes, I was working when I was young, but even helping out at my dad's shops, or he had a dollar store, he had a Color Your World paint store, he had multiple things going, and always doing it. And I can't even remember if I got paid or not. It was just you were doing it.
At the beginning of your, let's call it, entrepreneurial career,
okay,
what was the most appealing part of the business for you? Was it the idea that you could be independent as a business owner?
Yeah.
Was it the idea that you could grow a business, grow your own empire? Or was it the money that you could actually make?
It's probably a bit of everything. It was like when you're working, for myself, I was working at a pest control company. And then my first business I started was pest control. You kind of see that, I'm doing this, they're charging this much, and I'm collecting this. And you kind of do the math. I think everybody in the entrepreneurial space or business owner sees that initially. So that was a big thing for me. Yes, it was the money, but more it was the freedom. Like the freedom, if you don't get up at 6 to work, you don't eat, right? You can make those decisions. And I'm sure everybody's had those days where you go, I'm not going to go in today. And then go, well, it looks like I'm not eating today, right? And it's when you don't have kids and you start off on your own. And I think I think maybe the freedom was the biggest part. Is the harder I work, the more I make, the bigger I become. And then the next step is whenever you hire your first employee. That's massive. Like for any business owner, when you have your first employee, this is great. My team is growing. It's not so much a hierarchy thing. It's more of a, wow, I can do this. This works. And then my system works. And then you just fuel that fire. So that's kind of what did it for me is.
So tell me about your first company.
Yeah. It was a pest control company, and it was called All Pro Pest Control. And this was a long time ago. And I was working at a normal company or normal pest control company. And I started my own. And
here in Vancouver?
Yeah, it was in Vancouver. Yep. And the lower mainland. And it was scary, but I had grown pretty high up in the company I was working with. I was young, probably 20 or 21 or something. So I'd grown pretty high, and I had, 10 or 15 people that I was in charge of. So I knew how to run a team and systems and growth. I knew there was KPIs. I knew what those were. So going off on my own, that's kind of what it was not easy, but it was comfortable. It was comfortable, but uncomfortable, right?
So for pest control, what were you?
What was it?
Was it mice or insects?
Yeah, it was a little bit of everything. It was, insects, mice, birds, wildlife, raccoons, in the residential, like houses, but as well as the commercial spaces, like your restaurants, hotels, like those kind of things. I had to have it done weekly. So, yeah, so it's mandated, yeah.
Preventive as well.
Preventative, yeah, good call. So even like restaurants, they have to have a company come in once a month. So was more of that space. So.
And how fast were you able to grow? How hard was it at the very beginning, the first 2-3?
It was hard. Yeah, it's like you are a small fish in a big pond. So it is challenging, and they do everything. It's once you start to get a little bit of market share and you start to take away some of the accounts that the larger companies would have, that's when they kind of try to squash the bug, or they kind of they come for you. Yeah, and it's when you start to I think everybody who's, they call them one man show or Chuck in a truck or Dan in a van or whatever, right? I love that space. I think that's, when you first start out, like even your uniforms, when you get a uniform, like I know one of my favorite pictures is I don't know, it's probably 20 or 21, and my oldest, she's probably 2 or 3 in the picture, and I got a matching shirt for her with the logo, and you get, you just feel that pride, right? You're like, this is it, you're not stopping me. So, but back to the question, I think once you grow and scale and you get to that, we start to take away some market share from the big boys is when you get the offers coming in, or you get the other side where they start bad mouthing you or doing that. So yeah.
Do you remember any story that you can share now of a day when you went, oh man, it's really too hard, or this is so unfair?
Yeah, there's lots of days, like even now, right? Yeah, not now, but there's lots of days when you first start is just that, like, oh, I should just go back, or I'm going to give up. I'm going to throw I lost an account. Somebody gave me a bad review, or, that happens, right? It's just like, instead of saying like, okay, I got a bad review, how do I combat that? Let's come back with 10 good reviews. And so you really got to have that mindset to flip it, because everybody, I think there'd be something wrong with you if you didn't think there's days I want to throw in the towel. Much like yourself, you probably had the same. Yeah. You have days.
No. With me, it has always been smooth.
It's it's always easy. Yeah, it's
always easy.
Yeah, but it's just, you know what I mean. There's always something. So.
What happened that you did not expect when you were getting in business and you thought, oh, okay, this is going to be like this?
Yeah.
You remember 1 or 2 things that happened that you completely did not expect?
I think it would have to be when you have your first employee and then they quit. And then because you take that personally. I remember the first person that I had hired and they left, right? I don't know the reason why, but you're always like, it's my fault. And I think there must be stages you go through, like regret, remorse. It's not me. Anger. You know what I mean? It's like a breakup. That's right. You got to go through the end, right? So it was kind of, it's a relationship, right? Like, it's not like you work for me 9 to 5. For myself, anyway, it was always a relationship. And you take it personally as like, did I do something wrong? And even if they just want to move on. So even after that's done, but then now you're left with this, here's Bob's jobs that Bob used to do. Who's doing this, right? And that's kind of that scramble. That's kind of the heavy hit is, what do I do here now when I'm still running this over here?
When did that happen to you?
My first company, But
when, like 1 year left?
Oh,
how long was that person with you for?
Probably maybe like 6 months after me. I can't remember right off the top, but maybe 3-6 months after. They're already in it, and they had a route going, and they had things going. So like the systems were already running. So whenever you take that piece out of the equation, and that's when I learned that the importance of people and the people you surround yourself with, and how much of a role they play. Like my business does not work without everybody on our team. We have 25 locations. It's year 2. We're growing, we're scaling. It's great. Yeah. But it's the team. Like we have the same development team that we have on our leadership team for over a decade, right? Been together with all the brand. We're the same team. And it's even the franchise owners, the techs in the field, right? Like I know the tech in the field in Florida. I know his name's Tyler. I know he has a wife. He has a child. I know that. I should know that. And you can't get too big for your bridges. This is my dad always reminded me. You get too big for your bridges, whatever that means, right? It just don't ever think you're too good, too important to not know that. So the people, that's the one thing I learned really darn quick is the people on your team.
Yeah, one fallacy I think is when people think about becoming an entrepreneur, they think, oh yeah, I don't want to have a boss.
Right.
What you realize once you have a business is that all your clients and many of your team, they are your bosses.
Absolutely, they are.
But you don't have one boss anymore. Now you are serving 20, 30, 50
bosses. That's it. It's true. It's like our franchise partners, like they're our boss. Like we have to make sure if they don't do good, we don't do good, right? So you want to make sure they're happy and they're getting what they need. Or it's just right down to everything. Like it's anybody on your team is, you work for them, right? They work for you, you work for them. It's kind of like this family build. So like having that that glue that holds together is for sure. People is for 100%.
Okay, so
Yep.
back on track here. The
Yep.
first person left, quit.
Yes.
Because you were a horrible boss.
I was an idiot.
And then
Aggressive. Yeah. Yelling at him. Yeah. No.
what was the next big challenge that you faced?
I think it would be scaling. So going from owner operator, 1, 2 employees, technicians, or whatever, to like, once you get to like 3, 4, 5, you're in a different space, right? Because now you have things that are churning and burning, and it's more of that kind of thing, right? It's more of it becomes a real business. Not that it wasn't a business before,
More
but
like mass production.
yes, yeah,
And you need also a lot of income.
you do. Yeah, you got to make sure.
Stay alive.
Yeah, you got to make sure you're charging enough. You got to make sure, you just got to make sure everything runs smooth. But I've always found once you get to that, like, whatever the dollar figure is, but like usually within the service world, like vehicle 3, 4, you're no longer a one-man show. It's no longer a small mom and pop. You have this, and it goes not quickly, but that's when you hit vehicle 3 or 4, technician 3 or 4, adding 5, 6, 7, it just becomes a system. So I found that's kind of the next challenge. Like, you're right, it's more expensive.
And what do you think gave you an edge to be able to scale? Because I think a lot of our competitors, they're just going to stay small.
Yeah.
Until they one day die.
Yes.
But if you want to scale, you have to have an edge.
You got to have, yeah.
What was it for you?
You got to be different. So in Puddle, it is definitely, we developed our own app, our own systems where you could run the business from your cell phone. So we have a lot to look at. Like, I could run Florida or Toronto. If there's a technician in place, I could run it from here. That was number one, right?
For example, what do you do with the app?
So the app, so our system allows, it's a little different than any other, I don't want to use the names of the competitors, but any other kind of CRM in the service world. So it links with Google Earth. It allows us to zoom into the location. Everything is automated. Like, if somebody wants a quote on a pool for residential, there's set prices. The owner or the franchise partner or the technician in the field can just pull this up, it drag and drop, set. So it's very, very cookie cutter, very easy to use.
So it saves you the trip to go and first assessment.
Yep, the speed to lead. So you need to have that, eliminate that. Well, we'll send somebody over, and then you got to wait. And we've all done it. Like, I live in a pretty heavily treed area. So for us to get someone to cut the trees back every year, it's a pain. They have to come, they have to look at it. Then we have to wait for a quote. And of course you want to get like 2 quotes, right? Because I don't know if I'm getting totally gouged, right? So that kind of thing is having that speed. Like, if you called our office and says, I want to get pool service for my pool, boom, they say, boom, 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 here it is, there's your address, boom, there's a quote, there's a price, great. You say, wow, yeah, go ahead, perfect. They send you an agreement, boom, 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 your credit card's info done. And then within 3 minutes, you've called, onboarded, boom, and then you'll have a tech there the next day.
Yeah.
So having that systems in place is that's been our differentiator.
Okay. So now we're talking about the current business, the
correct, yeah,
services, but the Pest Controls.
Back then,
business, did you franchise that as well?
I sold that one to a large competitor, and now I started I actually went to like a conference and thing, and Jim Tree Living was running it. He runs Boston Pizzas and like a huge franchise mogul,
Yeah,
right?
I was gonna ask you if you read his book. Yeah,
I did. Yeah,
and then
and he's a local guy too. He was doing a thing here, and it was just you go and you listen, and he said some things that were really, really like, I was like, oh man, I like that space. And he started talking about franchise and that. So I started looking more into it, and I was in a non-compete with my Pest Control, so I wasn't going to start that. So I started a home service brand for the franchise to grow through that model. And so that was also like it's different than the normal business, right? Because now I'm creating a business to sell or award to grow through that way. So
okay, is that Puddle?
No, that was a home. I can't say their name. I'm not allowed to.
Okay. You sold it as well?
So I sold that one.
And you can't talk about it?
Not really. I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, there's
your agreement?
It's a non-compete for 5 years. Yeah. So,
okay.
Sorry, folks. Yeah.
So with Puddle Pool Services.
Yep.
Let's talk about that now. Can you talk about that?
I can talk about that one. That one I can talk about. So yeah.
So open the Pandora box.
So yeah. So well, let's go back to the home service, and then I went and after that was going great and booming. We had like maybe 30 or 40 locations in year by year 3.
With Pest Control?
No, with the home service.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So
I
there's too many.
Not talk about it.
I'm not going to talk, but this is how the flow. So then after the home, then I started Toodaloo Pest Control,
Mm-hmm.
right? That one I can talk about. So that one is in the pest control industry, and it's a franchise model, right? At the same time, we started Puddle.
Okay.
So both in the home service space, because we kind of hit our groove with the one. So advancing on this one and taking all of the systems, procedures, the CRMs, our playbooks to grow these two. So the plan was to take Puddle to the US ultimately, just because of the model and all that. So
Did you start Puddle Pool Services by yourself, or do you have any
I did.
investors and partners?
No, everything is only up.
So, okay, we're going to go deeper.
Diving deep. Hold on, let me get a sip before we dive deep. Yeah.
What is the main lesson that you learned with your previous businesses?
You're always growing. You cannot be stagnant. Every day, there has to be something new that you're working towards. And be it in the system side, be it on the service side, it doesn't have to be like we're doing pools. Tomorrow we're going to be installing pools. It's like, that's an idea. Let's work towards that. And so we always have to be growing.
And why?
Or you get left behind. Everybody else is doing.
If you're not growing, you're dying.
You're growing. That's right. Yeah, that's right. And I think you said it earlier, like most of them will stagnate and just stay. And happy, nothing wrong with that, just staying here, right? But
until they die.
Until they die, right? So, but if you, like in my world anyways, it's very fast paced. There's lots of franchises. There's what's the differentiator. We always have to be adding value and adding for our other owners, right? And same with the systems that they use. So we're always growing.
And where is your focus when you start a business aiming at creating a franchise instead of just creating a shop?
Yeah, that's a good question. It takes time. It's
so at the very beginning, from the get-go, what is different?
Systems. You have to be, because I'm not in my franchise system or our franchise system. It's not so much you're buying a pool business, you're buying a pool business. You're buying the business, right? So you're not so much learning how to clean the pools or clean the spas. You're learning how to grow the business, scale the business. How do we do it? What are the these kind of things that you're learning. It's more like you're selling a business. So it's a little different. It's not so much the service. And that's where I said we're lucky because of our past service businesses. We have, 12 plus years of trial and error. So it's a little easier to if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't have any experience with franchises. My wife, who's here, she does.
Yep.
But I think that a franchisor, well, for example, a business owner, doesn't have to convince anybody but the customers, right?
Correct, yeah.
I have to convince the customers that, hey, I can solve your problems.
Yes.
And the staff. Oh,
and the staff, yeah.
But as a franchisor, you have to convince other people that they should have the same business and solve.
Right.
And then they convince their clients.
Correct. It is a different dynamic. It's more of and it's not so much you don't really sell the franchise to the franchise owners. It's a little different, and that space is more of, here's our system. So we've created this killer system. It's growing, it's scaling. Here's the margins. You can make this. We need to make sure that you fit with us, because the first call, the intro call, is the same interview as you with us as us with you. So we have to make sure there's a match there. So they always say they're awarded, and that's what it is, because we've had a lot of franchise partners come down the line where they're near the end to almost being awarded the franchise, and somebody else is maybe a month or two behind, but they're a better fit, right? So that's the hard part, where we have to say, listen, we have somebody who's a better fit, and that's the hard part. So it's not so much
because there's only so many franchises that you can license.
Correct. Yeah.
Per location.
Yeah, exactly.
Two people. Hey, you here and you here 3 blocks away.
No, exactly. So they're protected territories. Like Vancouver has Vancouver. The folks in North Vancouver don't come over to Vancouver, right? So and you have to make sure, because they're using our systems and they're an extension of me. Like I always say, that's my work marriage, right? So like we're married there's a 10-year term, right? So we have to make sure that we fit.
10-year term?
Yeah, they have a 10 years for the franchise, right? So we have to make sure that they're that everything jives in your boxes, that you tick match our boxes, and so on. So
what is the first red flag that you spot when someone wants to become a franchisee and you go, oh, definitely not a good fit.
Yeah, there's lots of them. Yeah, there's lots of red flags. And again, yeah, there's lots of things where I just know it won't, for our system anyways, that wouldn't be good for us. That may be good for others. So number one is not being able to follow systems. So in franchise, that's all it is, right? So usually we'll have, after the first call, we'll say, we're going to book the next call. And for the next call, if you could have this prepared, say, right? So if we know if they come to the next call and go, oh, I didn't get a chance to do it, I know our development guys will know, and gals will know that this isn't the first thing on their mind, right? Mm-hmm. If the meeting is at 1:00 and they show up at 1:05, that's a red flag. Mm-hmm. They should be on that call 12:55 in that waiting room. This should be top of mind, right?
That's why you came 20 minutes earlier today.
That's why I arrived yesterday. But you know what I mean? It should always be, it kind of shows you this isn't that high on their importance, right? And then the questions that they would ask. There's certain questions in our field that we kind of look for, and that the conversation we usually kind of push it towards that is, will they answer this like this, or will like scalability, right? So red flags would be, I just want to have myself do the truck and then that's it. That's great. Nothing wrong with that. It's just not this model. So then we'll just say, this probably isn't for you. So just those little things. Yeah. So there's lots of red flags.
How common is the idea that franchisees or prospective franchisees have that, I'll just buy a franchise and it's passive income? Is it common for people to think that it's the way?
I think so. In some cases, I think it's natural to think, if I'm going to invest this money and it's going to, and I don't think that business exists. Like, that's always, that'd be the ideal. Here's my money. I'm getting a return at the end of the year or whatever. Right. Yeah. So, but yeah, I would say it's definitely, it's common to have that, what do I need to do? Or how much is like we have in-house marketing, right? So, but how much is in-house marketing going to do for me? Right. So it is, it's common. It's common. Yeah. I think it's natural though. Nothing wrong with that question. I think that maybe that around that franchise space, you just think that, right? So
if you were starting another franchise now, or the same one, but the knowledge that you have acquired in 10 years, 10, almost 11 years?
10, 12,
Yeah, I did a little bit.
There you go,
almost 11
Little LinkedIn crawling,
What would you do different if you were starting another or the same franchise today?
I don't think I would do anything different. This is our fourth round. You can say our fourth so everything fourth company, and it's all in the same space. So we always say it's not our first rodeo. And you bring up a good point, is moving to the US is we go into that market of they are emerging. We're new, right? We're new, fair enough, but we're not new. Like with with close to 100 locations throughout all the brands. So we've gone through the processes. There's no holes in the boat. There's no kinks. So I'd have to say I wouldn't do anything. Like we started franchising Puddle beginning of 2023, like last year, right? So we've grown nicely. We've have controlled growth. We haven't brought on everybody. So growing at a nice pace. But I wouldn't change anything. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what I think. Yeah.
And what do you think is going to take you to the next level now? What is you're focusing more and more in the States?
We are.
But you mentioned growing is so important. So what is
It is. So we, for the US, we've partnered with an organization called Carpool and Franchise Fastlane. Carpool's a portion of Fastlane.
Are they accelerators? What do
they are. It's an FSO, and they have their systems that they have in place as far as the process of awarding. There's a 6-7 step process. It's the same one we use now. So it was a great mesh, but they have a team behind them that allows for bookings, for presetting the calls, doing all of the back end work, and they are a machine, right? And they fit nicely with us. So they're great. Here's a little plug for them. Yeah, but they're great. They're great. That's going to take us to that next level. The systems they have in place, there's no maybes, maybe not. It's just like boom, boom, boom. This is a qualified candidate. They're great. You're going to mesh with them. Then they hand them to us, and we go from. So I'd say they would.
So I assume this might have been a big investment for you guys.
Yeah.
Partnering up with them. So what made you decide to actually do it? Is it because of the speed? Because you could also do it on your own without them.
You could, but in the franchise space, in the US anyways, they have FS, like franchise sales organizations, that type of thing. And they also have consultant groups. So the consultants, and I'm new to the US, so this is just what I know from the Canada side. It's always our dream to partner with a great FSO or a great consultant group or even consultants, and they kind of match us with the right consultants that have quality candidates, right? If there's over, I don't know how many, say there's 2,000 consultants or 5,000 consultants in the US, the ones that match their candidates would match great with us, if that makes sense. So it's more of a pairing.
Candidates, you mean franchisees?
Correct, yeah,
right?
Potential
Yeah,
franchises,
okay.
yeah. So they really
How do
pair.
you find them? Where are these people?
So they come from anywhere in the U.S. and more the they have a
But I mean,
consultant.
they don't find you on Craigslist. So how?
No, yeah, LinkedIn, yeah, no. So they would use a consultant or broker, so they would say, I want to buy a business, and they would say, I like this. I'm looking for a home service space. I want to spend
And the consultant is a kind of matchmaker.
Yeah, matchmaker, and then the consultant would say, here are 5 brands. Which one do you like? And here's and they would say, I really like this one and this one, and here's the pros and cons to both of those. Yeah. And then from that, the consultant would say, hey folks, I have Jenny Smith here. She wants to get, and then we would go from there. So it's really eliminates that, the I don't know the word, but just
all the back and forth.
All the back and forth. Yeah.
Waste of time.
Yeah.
I guess you pay a commission.
Yeah, the commission,
right?
and they're
to the consultant.
Yeah, and it's
sort of a broker, like you said.
Yeah, like a broker,
like a mortgage broker.
Yeah,
find the best more
kind of,
and then they also have to qualify the candidate for you,
for us,
just like a mortgage broker would do for the land.
Correct. Yes. So it's the same. So that's what's going to take us to the next level. We found for us, like the consultants we partner with right now are crazy. We just moved in Q2.
Crazy good.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. That's my lingo. Yeah. They're great. They're awesome. But they really do, like just see us so we can sit here and just jive, and we're just like two best buds. Right. So it's kind of the same, we get that same feel, and some may partner great with Stephanie on our team, and Stephanie really jives well with them. So you get that relationship, again, back to the people, the relationship thing that really, that I think that will help us take us to the next level.
So for your franchisees here in Canada, how spread out is the business here in Canada? Do you have anything, are you only in British Columbia or in other parts of Canada?
No, other parts, yeah. So we have BC we have one location left, but we're sold out in BC. Then we have Ontario is sold out as of last week. So that one.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so Ontario is sold out, and now we're just opening Alberta, right? So we're opening Alberta, and then we look at Edmonton, Calgary, and so the teams will start. And this is what I learned from my past. Rather than just doing shotgun approach, going, hey, we're going to sell it everywhere, right? It's more of a controlled province by province. So obviously Ontario being the biggest, the juiciest, the goosiest, they're the large ones, right? And so
how's Quebec?
We are not in Quebec. And
are there different regulations?
There is, yeah. And I learned this with one of the brands. The first one is, it's a bit challenging to
the one that you sold.
Yes, yeah. So we
cannot talk about.
That's it. Yeah, we cannot talk about. Yeah, it's just challenging on our end because of the language barrier. You need to put all of your CRM has to be in French as well. And it's not that there's an issue. It's just very time consuming and very it's costly. So my hat's off to folks that have gone into Quebec, but we're growing through a different way through the US and more of Canada, trying to close that off.
Is there a difference? I know, let's generalize a little bit if possible.
Yeah.
Is there any difference between East and West Canada, or let's say British Columbia and Ontario for
pools
in terms of franchisees, people, candidates, or
not so much? No, everybody is, because
everybody's friendly. I know
everybody's friendly. Yeah, everyone loves beer and bacon. Yeah, so I'd say it's everybody. Part of our process, when I say they're awarded, remember, it's more of that, making sure that mold of person is the same type of person, that same drive, same goals, same big picture thinker of what as the other folks in Ontario, or would it be in Halifax, or would it be in Victoria? It's going to be the same type of person. So not so much. Everybody's pretty much the same type of person. Yeah, same type of person. They're like
who is the most successful franchisee at this moment? Which location? Where?
That's a close one. So we have Ottawa, and it's also that some have been in it for a year and a half, and some have been in it for a month. So that's I'd say, Ottawa is our largest location for sure.
And what is so special about them? What are they doing right?
They follow the model.
Just lucky.
They're lucky. Yeah, no, they follow the model to it. You'll see in the ones that follow the systems to a T.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ones that exceed. Right? Everybody, and it's hard because everybody's entrepreneurial in this space, so they want to try this or they want to do that. And hats off to you. And you'd be weird if you didn't want to do that, right? So, but the ones that follow the systems and follow the procedures and even the marketing programs and all this, and something as small as doing a work order, the technician, if they're doing it this way, and they're growing through that executive model. But we have lots of our locations that are like that, Hamilton, Langley, Vancouver, like everybody is growing each month. So there isn't a location that's going down. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned something earlier here before we started recording. You were on Dragon's Den.
I was. Yes.
Okay. Which company were you there with?
I was there with, I had 3 of our franchise brands. This was back in 2018 or 19 or something. It was like 4.
3 brands, but in one pitch?
In one pitch, it was two. So here's the scoop. Here's the story. So they came to Abbotsford and they said they're doing casting calls, right? And CBC, yeah. And they said they do it across Canada, I guess, and you should go to this hotel if you want to pitch, right? And I was like, oh, you should go. You're like a walking mental case for this. You're like the person, right? So I'm like, so then I went and I go and I gave a pitch to them, and you didn't have to be prepared. I didn't think, right? I just kind of go and I said, we have 3 franchise brands, they're home service. They're all in different spaces. But our big pictures, we want to, again, move to the US, and how do we do it correctly? So I was really hoping to get on with Jim Tree Living. Yeah. And
Jim.
Yeah. Cause
was he on that season?
He was, yes.
Oh.
So, and he's like a god in our space, right? So he's a legend, and he would know, and that's the thing, is the mistakes that you would make would be expensive. So I went and I didn't have anything. I didn't have any blow up things or, any displays or anything. Kind of just went in and did our thing. And there was a lot of people there, and I just kind of forgot about it. And then like maybe 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, they called and said, hey, we like your thing. I was like, oh, okay, great. And then they said, you're going to be in 2 weeks or whatever. It was like a short time frame. It wasn't a week. It was like 2 weeks or 3, whatever it is you're going to fly out to Toronto and do all this. I was like, oh, wow. I'm like, hey, I don't have any of, like, when I went, I didn't have any displays. I didn't have any. They're like, well, you better get some. So that was the first thing. So
did you get anxious? Did you actually have to prepare?
Oh yeah, you had to prepare. And then I'm like, oh my God,
So you dedicated this 2 weeks.
This is it. Yep. So this is what we're doing. And so we, I had the pitch kind of down, and I got the displays and all that fun stuff. So I kind of had that down. But then as soon as you're on there, it's like bright lights. You're like deer in headlights. Like,
blank.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So it was, but it was great. We flew there, and they prepped our team prior. They said you have to make sure your website this would be for our marketing guys. So it has to be whatever it is, beef it up, because you're going to instantly have, if you have one view on your website, now you're going to have like 1 million. It could crash it or so. Yeah, I'm not a tech guy. So, but it was great. It was a great experience. It was, we went out there.
How did it go?
What's that?
How did it go?
Yeah, not good. It was, that was good. No, it was great. We went, and it was, you went into a big hold, like a big warehouse kind of thing. And then they had the smoke machine, and you go out there and you're like, whoa, this is the real. And then you see them sitting there and you're like, instantly you forget everything, right? You're like,
when you walk in,
yes.
When you're watching, you always hear the music. Dun, 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 dun,
yes.
Dun, dun.
They didn't play that.
They don't play that.
No,
right?
I don't. No, it was a while ago. I can't remember, but no, it was, you go in. Yeah. And then I remember the smoke machine, and then, the smoke machine kind of, came out, and then you see them sitting there and you're like, wow, this is happening. So but then it went,
Okay. So for you watching this here, we're recording this in our studio, and Mr. Busy here has a meeting, a Zoom call with someone from Texas.
I do. So,
in 8 minutes.
I do. So
break now. And we're going to continue.
Sorry, folks. Yeah.
In a few minutes.
Yep.
Still talking about the Dragon's Den.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
For sure. Cool.
Okay. And cut for now.
Good.
Okay. And that was our break.
Yeah.
We are back.
Thanks for the break. Yeah. Good.
How did your meeting go?
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was really fun. It was good. It was all good.
Okay. So we were talking about Dragon's Den.
Yes.
When you walk in, they don't play that music.
They didn't know.
So how was that experience for you? When you walked in,
yes,
silence.
It was like your worst nightmare. It was scary. So even all the practicing and all the, doing it in your basement, your garage, and over in your head, as soon as those lights go boom, and then you're like, holy smokes, they're right there. They're like this close, right? And then you realize like, oh, well, I'm going to be on national TV. Yeah, you kind of like lose everything. Like in your mind, you kind of just, and even though like I knew it, my pitch or my whatever, I knew it, like how we were talking, I just knew it, and then I lost it. I'm like, oh no, and then it kind of took a minute, and then it hit, because kind of that initial like, wow factor kind of goes away, and then you're in it. But it was really good. It was we were in there for quite a while. We were in there for like, I don't know, 20 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever.
The final episode.
It was like 2 minutes. Yeah, it's like 2 minutes. Like, oh, that was, but it went. They stopped it and started it, and it was a great experience. It was I didn't get a deal, but at the same time, everything that you learn, and like really listening to like Jim, who was on there, and he gave us advice of just trying to bring it all as one, and just some good pointers of what he would do. It was worth its weight in gold. Like I would do it, even the outcome of not getting a deal, I would do that tomorrow.
And you never got in touch with any of the dragons after the...
Nope. We had a lot of people reach out for private equity and almost saying, hey, I didn't like what they, of course, will allow us to do it, right? But it was not really about money. It was more the partnership and kind of going into this space that I'm in now, into the US, having a partner back then who had done it before.
Yeah. Much
like most of these, like, on a podcast or that kind of thing, is having that that knowledge. So it wasn't so much of, hey, we'll do it, we'll buy it. And it's like, that's not really what I was looking for. Like, I can't even remember how much I was asking for, but whatever it was more for, it doesn't matter if it was $1 or $1 million. It was more just the knowledge of having some...
In a partnership.
A partnership, yeah. So
is it safe to say you were also looking for a mentorship?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah?
100%, yeah.
So have you had any mentors?
I've had...
besides your dad?
Yeah, my dad, my father-in-law, both. Like, they're smart cookies, right? They're just like having somebody that outside perspective. My wife, right? I'm not just saying that because she's watching, but I have to... It's like somebody who's on the outside... She knows me better than I know myself, right? Like, really. And so anytime I'm bogged down or I have questions like, oh my gosh, like, what am I doing? Like, just like, what are you doing? Like, this is your thing. Like, do you do this? Or, my father-in-law having those kind of things. As far as mentors in the business world, there's a lot, like LinkedIn is obviously, that's where we connected, right? But having those, following people that are in the same space as where I want to be or have been where I've been where I want to go, is really following them and watching them, and just that. So I don't have one individual that I go to, which, besides my family and those kind of things.
Yeah. So you don't have any official mentors, but you are careful with whom you are surrounding yourself with?
Yes. Yeah. And I think that might be me as a person. I tend to be a little more, you want to be more of the quiet person in the room, kind of just watch and not speak as much. And so I really, I do surround myself with people, or, not my private life, but in my business life, is I want to make sure I'm surrounding myself with people that I'm going to, I'm not going to surround myself with somebody that hasn't been, or take advice from somebody that hasn't been there, or, you know what I mean? Not that their advice doesn't count, just probably wouldn't pertain.
If you wouldn't trade places with that person,
yes,
listen to them.
I probably wouldn't. Yeah, I would still listen to them, but I probably take it with a grain of salt. But somebody that's been there, or like take like that Jim, for instance, he's been there, he's where I want to go. I'm going to take what he says with the. Yeah.
But most people who will give you pieces of advice, they haven't done it.
No,
and they will actually tell you, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't try this.
Yep.
How common is that in your life?
I think it's very common. Like, even I think the best parents in the world are people without kids, right? Like, even with you have kids, and don't do that. I would never do that with my kid, and like bring it back to that world. I think it's the same in business world, right? Is you're always going to have naysayers, and that was a piece of advice from both my dad and my father-in-law. Both, you're going to have naysayers. You're going to have people telling you can't do it. Why would you do that? Why would you do? Like, ignore them. That's my biggest. That would be my biggest piece of advice for anybody, is only you, right? So only I know what I'm capable of. So, but there are a lot, to answer your questions. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of people that like to give their opinion.
Yeah. And have you had to break up with anybody that was close to you, friends or relatives that were just trying to drag you back down?
Good question. No, maybe not so much. No, I never really had to break up or end a relationship over it. It might have fizzled more into like a friend zone or more into more into that space where we weren't going the same spot. So it's no hard feelings, but we can still be friends, but maybe not this kind of thing. So
Okay.
But yeah,
okay.
I've had a couple. Yeah.
And your wife, does she help you with the business?
Yes, she's like not on the day-to-days. She helps Mark's heads. And I think I'm sure I'm sure Michelle is the same for you. Your significant other, your partner, they're in that behind the curtain, so they can see from a bird's eye view. They know what's going on. So she can ground me real quick. She can make like yesterday, I'm like, what? You just maybe one of those days where you just weren't, everything didn't click, and like, what am I doing? What about this? Why am I doing? It's just like, whoa. You said you were going to do this. You were doing that. And then so she would be, does she work on the business and collect a salary? No. But would this run without?
You can balance off all the ideas with
absolutely.
her.
Would it run without her?
Yeah.
Behind myself?
I run everything by my wife.
You have to. Yeah.
Everything.
You have to.
She doesn't share much, about her career with me, but I share everything with her.
Yeah, it's great to have that person or that part. It doesn't have to be a wife, but it could be a friend, a buddy. It could be a business. But I'm sure it's really important for everyone to have that. You need to do that, right?
In psychology, you have yourself. You have the unconsciousnness.
Yes.
Consciousness.
Yep.
And then I have my wife.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
It's different.
It is, because it's one of my business associates, partner, whatever you want to call it, buddies, he says like, franchising is or business. It can be really lonely, right? Because you're the boss, you're doing your own thing, it's your ideas, but it can be very lonely. And then that's why I like the franchise space, is because you have all these lonely owners, you could say, but in the franchise world, that really doesn't exist, is because there's always, we have say 25 locations, you have 25 people that are going through the same thing as you, and they want to get to the same end game. So that's why I think I really love that franchise space. Do
you have with the franchisees, not with your team, but with the franchisees, do you have any monthly meetings or weekly meetings or annual meetings?
Yeah.
How often do you guys meet? On a one-to-one basis and everybody?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm going to give you a little bit. I can't give you all of it.
Yeah.
So I have to kill you. That'd be secret sauce, right? So so we do weekly, right? With one-on-ones.
Okay.
They have their coach and they have the franchise partner.
Yeah.
They have one-on-ones. We have, as far as monthly meetings go, we have 3 different monthly meetings. We have a round table, we have a social media round table, and then we have a business power hour, right?
Okay.
So
not everybody.
That's with everybody.
Oh,
yep.
Wow, really?
So we have those, and then we have a quarterly. It's every 3 months we have growth clubs.
Mm-hmm.
So the people that have started 0 to 4 months are in group 1.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have 5 to 9 or 5 to 10 in group 2, and then 10 plus are in the lab.
So you're actually holding their hands and walking.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, and it's these groups like those. So the quarterly groups, because the people that are in their business the first 4 months are in a different headspace than the person that are at 10 plus, and they're gonna have different growing pains and things that are working for them. Like if somebody's in a year, this really working well for me is not going to be the same that works well for the first person. So yes, and then we have our quarter or half every 6 months retreat.
Yeah.
We half year retreat. So that's an annual or regional meetings. That would be the West and the East, and then we have our annual. So there's a lot, and maybe it's too much. I don't know.
So now on a personal level, it sounds like you're 75 with all this, this history in your life.
Yeah.
Oh, you were 40,
47. Yeah.
47, looking super young. Hair is growing.
Thank you. Yeah. Lucky some people say I look homeless, but that is
5 kids.
Yeah.
Lots of businesses. How do you manage your time? What's your daily routine?
You know what? It sounds like it's busy, but I actually have a lot of time. Like I still go to all my kids.
Because they're not cleaning pools anymore.
No, I'm not in the, but we still have different roles, right? So it's still, I think it's the people that, like it's the team. Like it's, it's not like, hey, do this for me. It's just, hey, here's a role. And this is another thing that I've learned. Probably one of the more important is, as that role develops, I can't wear all the hats. It's like we need to hire for this role or for that role, right? And what it does initially might be like, oh, I can do that because I have that ability, but it takes away from what I want to do and my vision and what my goal is or my role is, right? So I think it's time management because of everybody's role that are in place, right?
Yeah.
And I certainly don't want to see our marketing team, or, Steph, she's our liaison. She's kind of runs the show behind the scenes. Steph's time is important to her as well. So we don't want to bog on as much as we can. Like, there's a point where you max out. So I think it's just time management is just making sure the right people are in place.
What role did you give up on that freed much time for you, or most time for you?
Oh, that's a good one. The most time that allowed me to have more time
because you were wearing lots of hats.
There is initially when you first start. I think it would be when you first, and I'd have to take it back to my first business, because by the fourth one you kind of know what's coming, so it's a little easier. But on the first one, is it when you get out of the in the service world, anyways, the hardest part is getting out of that truck. So I'm doing the work, I'm doing the hands-on.
Working now, in the business
and to working on it. So that transition, I always find that's harder than making that transition from employee or whatever you're doing now to business ownership. That's a big jump. That's a large leap. I'm going to in charge of my own destiny and all that fun stuff. But whenever you have something, you're growing your customer base, and I know Mr. Smith and I know Mrs. Jones and I know them. Now I have to hire a tech who's going to take care of them. There's that disconnect, and there's the fear of A, they're going to quit because all they want is me. B, they're never going to do it as good as me, right? Which is maybe true, right? And C, I can do this and I can do this at the same time, so I'm going to put on two hats, right? And you can only do so much, but that would be the hardest.
So you have to resist to all these three thoughts and distance yourself.
You have to distance. You have to start from where we are. We start from day one as, I am not going to put my hands in a pool. And then for our owners, it's like, that's how they start. You're like, even if the customer is right beside me here, that's a bad example, but if the customer is down the road, we have to get in the mentality that is our technician's job, because you're taking away from their job, right? So, so really making sure the system's knowing the roles, and that really frees up your time. But I have as much time now. I probably have more free time now, even with all these moving parts. I go kids and sports and lacrosse and personal life, and then business. You have this and that running and travel and all that. It's still have time to do everything. I can still go to the pub on the weekend. I can still, still go to soccer games. It's the same. So it's really knowing when to turn on and when to turn off.
Yeah. Have you tried any different type of business, or were they all very similar?
All similar. Yeah.
All of them.
I know this is my space.
Have you tried hospitality, food?
No, I've worked in food. But as far as business ownership, no. I've been, I found my space. I'm comfortable here. I like this space. I love this space, actually. So I don't think I would thrive I wouldn't do well in a restaurant. I don't know. Like, I understand how they run it, but the back end, I don't think that would be me. Right. So, so this would be a good thing where if I was going to buy a restaurant franchise, they would probably tell me no. Maybe you're vetted. Maybe you have the money, you have the time, you have this, but there'd be some disconnect there, but that they would just know that that's not a good fit for me. So that would be my world, is I would look for people that like that. So
yeah. So are you living the Canadian dream?
I hope so. Yeah, I'm living some kind of dream.
So when you started over a decade ago,
sure,
did you think you would be here where you are now?
No, it just kind of grew. I thought I would be. I always had the idea that I was going to be moving into the franchise space and maybe run one maybe one province, or one,
buy a franchise.
No, maybe like open it. And start. I knew I wanted to start. Like, I knew that clicked when I went to those. I just knew that was my thing. But I think it was more. I didn't know that, like, it evolves that we were going to be into the States. And now we're going to grow in the States and kind of build that. And I love that's kind of my dream, anyways. So
you always whenever you reach a target, you want something else, right?
Yeah, I think it's.
I was joking with my wife a few days ago.
Yeah.
I said, because I'm obsessed with financial freedom, because I come from not having so much. When I came to Canada,
yes,
I had $1,500.
Wow.
$1,500.
Yes.
No job.
Yes.
And I knew pretty much nobody.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? No relatives, nothing.
Yeah,
by myself, not with a partner. Many people now move, at least they have their support.
Yes, yeah.
Person with them.
Yeah.
So I came with nothing, and many people come, at least they are enrolled in something, studying that college.
Yeah.
But I came by myself.
Wow.
Yeah, with that little money.
Yeah.
So, and I had other people here on the podcast who started from nothing.
Yeah.
They were obsessed.
Yeah.
With building.
Yeah.
Created this safety net.
Yeah.
And that safety net for someone who comes from nothing.
Yep.
Has to be much more resistant.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And I was joking with my wife. I said, you know what? I know we're sacrificing, we're hustling, but I just want to get to 10 properties.
Yep.
Once I own 10 properties,
Yeah.
then I can think about 50.
Yeah.
I was just joking that,
Yeah.
for a moment I thought, then I'm going to be fine. And no, then I'm going to want
You want more.
5x.
And you know what?
It's almost like that, isn't it?
It is. And it's like, it's always like, I think that's natural is wanting to do better. And now I've hit here.
Progress.
I want to do this now. And we should do this. And I really, so aiming high and really, and sometimes you look at you go, wow, that is a crazy goal. That's not going to happen. But when, I never thought I would go to where my goals are. My goals now are a lot different from, 20 years ago or 10 plus years. It's a little different, but I think being humble and, like you say, everybody has their, did I come from this? Did I come from that? Right. And it's like, I remember not being able to make a car payment. I remember the repo guys coming and taking me and my wife's car. We had 3 kids. We had no money and they came and took our car. And that's a hard go. It sucks. Right. And you remember those, like, I don't want to go back to that.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah.
Right. If it happens again, we'll be fine because we've been there.
I think you touched the point, That's exactly it. My wife did not go through any hardships.
Right.
And so, I have told her a few times, I don't want to go back there.
Yeah.
Having been in a place of, let's say, scarcity.
Sure.
Gives you even more motivation.
Yeah.
To keep moving far away from that.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it also opens your mind to people starting out, right? That may not have everything, or I've worked I've talked with one guy, and this last month, and he is in the home cleaning space, right?
Mm-hmm.
And with like a maid service, and he's a go, like you can see where he's going to go, and you're like, and he's just called to ask for advice about something, and I said, hey, you might want to try this or that. So, but he has a location he has now in northern BC. It does really well. He says, I want to expand. I'm going to want to open in Victoria. I'm going to go down there and I'm going to pound the pavement. And I was like, okay, yeah, good on you. And I'm like, oh, I don't think you'd actually do. And he called me, hey, I'm in Victoria. I'm living in a hostel. I've gone up to X amount per. I'm like that kind of drive, because he's been where there's nothing. He said before he had started with nothing. He started this. He's grown up, and having that, he probably thinks the same. I don't want to go back there, but I've seen the other side of the coin, and this drives you to keep going, right? So people like that, I think everybody's probably built some part like that, but it's
in progress. Like I said, Tony Robbins, he says that progress is happiness.
Right. Yeah.
Or happiness comes from progress.
Yes.
If you stop, like you said, if you stop growing, you're dying.
You're dying
for the business.
Yep.
And I think in the same forum for us personally, if you stop learning, if you stop progressing, you're just
anything. Like if you
more miserable.
Yeah. If you play soccer, if you stop practicing 3 times a week, I don't play soccer, but I'm sure you're not going to be as good as if you did play 3 days. You know what I mean? So you always got to be doing something better, right? In the business space or personal or it's kind of why where we are.
We kind of already touched it, and we're approaching the end of this episode.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But a piece of advice that you would give to anybody who is waiting for the perfect time to start a business or to buy a franchise or to just,
anything, start their own business,
do their own thing.
Yeah. I think if you're thinking about that, like there is no perfect time. There's no, of course you probably don't want to open a restaurant in December or whatever that may be, right? But if you want to do it, just do it. And my father-in-law told me this, I've said this on other times, is he gave me a piece when I was, I started my first one, I was young and we had a couple kids. I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing, right? He's like, what is the worst that could happen? Like, what is the worst? You're going to be out a car payment and you lost some money and on ads and all that, and you can always go back to where you were. But what is the worst that could happen, right? And just do it, right? Nike probably said it best, just do it. Like just try, or else it will irk you forever if you don't, right? And do not listen. Sorry, I'm kind of parlaying into the next part. Do not listen to the naysayers. And I'm like, I try and just keep your mouth shut and you do it on your own and maybe tell a select few. But the minute that you announce it that I'm going to do this is the minute you have people saying, oh, that's not going to work. And don't do that. Well, what about trying this? And that's their gig. That's their idea, right? Yeah. So I would that would be my advice.
And that's especially difficult because many times the naysayers are people who actually care a lot about you.
Yeah.
They love you.
Yeah.
They just don't want you to suffer. They don't want you to fail.
Yeah.
And that's why they just...
Yeah. Safety net,
It's
right?
because with kids,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Especially moms with kids. Don't do this. I am I see my wife and myself, the difference.
Yeah.
Don't do this. Don't do this. Like, and I go, do it. Fall.
Yeah.
Get up.
Yeah.
Get hurt.
Yeah.
The more you get hurt now, the better it will be later.
Yep.
And I think it's also good in business to think that way. Just go and fail as fast as you can.
Yep.
And learn as fast as you can.
And it's you're not going to learn if you don't try it, you don't fail, right? Like I think you take Brian Scudamore, right? 1-800-JUNK, like local legend, right? He has a book he wrote, and it's, I should know this. What's the Learning to Fail, or what is it? I can't remember what the book's called. Sorry, I don't know. His book, yeah, it's Learning to Fail, or it just teaches you that if you don't take those chances, you don't learn anything, right? It's just like anything. It's just, so I think, and that's really true. If you're not going to know if a marketing program is not going to work if you don't try it, right? You don't know if that business is not going to work if you don't try it. So just try it.
Yeah.
So and the naysayers, you're right. They are the safety net, or the parents. Oh my gosh, or stay in school, or don't. Like I do the same with my kids. Like they want to go. My oldest owns a franchise, right? She owns a location. I want to try it, and they've been around the space, so they probably know, they're familiar with it, right? And great, if it's going to better not fail, right? It's one of ours, right? So, but you know what I mean? Yeah. So, but having that, like, I want to go to Europe. I want to backpack around there. Yeah, good. Go save up, get a thing. Yeah, do it. Because if you don't do it, you're not going to know.
Yeah.
So
all your kids are already adults.
They are. Yeah.
How old is the youngest?
16. Well, adultish to me.
Okay. So what do you want them to think about when they think of you?
Maybe
when you're gone.
When I'm gone
in 150 years.
Oh God, this is taking a turn.
When you're gone,
a turn for the sad. Yeah.
What do you want them to think about their dad?
I think just that he's supportive and told them to try as much as they can. Just like keep your mind open. Don't listen to anybody's BS and just go do it. And just supportive. He was there for me, and we failed at some things and we're successful at other things, but just kind of be there. It's really important to, as a parent, anyways. You just want to make sure you're there. So I don't know everything about parenting. But that's what I know is you got to be there.
So. Great. I think that's a great way to finish this podcast.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Yeah.
Is there anything that I didn't ask you that we should have talked about?
No, I think we kind of hit
a lot.
Yeah, we hit on a lot. Yeah, it was a great. I loved.
For anybody who would like to get in touch with you,
yes,
who should get in touch with you, and how should they find you?
Yeah. So as far as our business dev side, they can go to puddlepools.com.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? They can go there and they can find all the information they need. Also on LinkedIn, that's kind of my...
Are you open to connecting with people that you don't know?
Yeah. The more the merrier, right? So that would be my space. It's just either, puddlepools.com and all the info that they need is there. And then, again, if they want to connect on a different level, LinkedIn's there, or just reach out and say, hey.
Great.
Yeah.
Well,
it's great.
For you watching or listening to this episode, all the links are here in the description. And I will thank you.
Thank you
for coming here today.
That was awesome. That was great.
Plus,
yeah.
Now we are really best friends.
That's it. Yeah. Now we're going out. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And thank you for staying with us until the end of this episode. Remember, if you are watching this on YouTube, remember to subscribe and to share this episode with anybody that you think would also appreciate listening to what Mark had to say here today.
Yeah.
And remember to like it, and I'll see you on the next episode. Did I forget anything? Oh. Max just got here from, where were you?
A kindergarten.
Kindergarten.
Oh.
How old are you, Max?
5.
5. And what do you want to do when you grow up?
Be a part of iMultimedia.
Be a part of Ice Multimedia.
There you go.
Work with Daddy. Great. So looking at that camera now, say thank you for staying with us.
Thank you for staying with us.
Remember to subscribe.
Remember to subscribe.
To write your comments.
To write your comments.
And share this episode with anyone you want.
And share this episode with anyone you want.
Okay, I'll see you on the next episode. No kissing.
Nice work, Max.